Welcome to Milestone Moments, the show where we explore the journeys that lead to success. I'm Sheila Slick, your host and founder of 5 Milestones. In every episode, we will bring you insights from the minds of entrepreneurs, leaders, and experts who will share not just their expertise, but the milestone moments that have reshaped their journeys and led to significant achievements. So if you're looking for motivation, you're in the right place. Subscribe now and discover the milestones that mark the path to success. Welcome back. Today's guest is a graphic designer with 25 years of experience working on projects for brands like Disney, Nintendo, and Costco, and a former financial advisor with over 20 years in financial services. She's now a certified money coach who helps creative entrepreneurs break through the money beliefs that keeps them stuck. She's also a best-selling author and four-time award-winning author of The Creative Code. Please welcome to the show, Jen Fontanilla.
Thank you, Sheila. I'm so excited to be here with you.
So let's get your backstory. You built a 25-year career as a graphic designer and you worked with these really big brands, and you spent over 20 years in financial services. What made you walk away from what you were doing to become a money coach for creative entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so when I was in college, I first wanted to be a doctor. Obviously, I am not Dr. Fontanilla, so that didn't happen. And then it was shortly after I graduated, I said, you know what, I'm going to go into design school. I want to be a graphic designer. And at that time, I only knew about fine art. When I say that, I'm talking about like, oh, I'm going to paint pictures or I'm going to carve a statue, none of which I can do. But I didn't know about the commercial side of design. So everything has been this discovery of like, oh, I didn't know this existed. Oh, I didn't know that you could do this. So when I discovered that, I went into that field. And then I did that for a few years. And then obviously some of the companies and brands that you mentioned did some work for that. I had accounts where I was doing the packaging and the displays for these big stores like Costco and Target. And this is going to totally date me, but remember DVDs? I would create the displays for that, worked with structural engineers. I would do the graphics, and then it was really interesting. So I did that for a few years, and then I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm making pretty good money. I'm in my early 20s at this time, or mid 20s at this time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I know nothing about investing. I know nothing about money. And thank God I wasn't a huge spender. So it wasn't like I was blowing all the dollars. But it was just this feeling inside where I thought, I don't know anything about money. And I hated that. It was like FOMO, even though we didn't use the word FOMO back then. And what ended up happening was I decided to, you know what, I got to learn, because it was bothering me. And in fact, I had a friend that visited she was living in the East Coast at that time, and she was visiting, and I saw her writing these numbers on a piece of paper. And I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm picking stocks. And it's like, I don't know about you, Sheila, but there's times when I see other people do something and I'm thinking like, I don't know that. And I feel inadequate. I feel like, how come they're getting ahead and they're learning some kind of skill that's very valuable? And then I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to probably look into this if I'm interested, or I can see that it's going to enhance whatever I'm doing. So all these different things pushed me into finance. And I said, I'm going to become a financial advisor. So that's what I did. I did that. And I was kind of trying to leave the graphic design stuff, but it didn't ever leave my life. I was kind of doing them simultaneously. And it was weird because I felt like I was living this double life. Like I didn't want people to know that, oh, I used to be a graphic designer. Because imagine I come up to you and go like, hey, do you want to, do you have any old 401k money, stuck in an old company? Do you want to move it? I mean, and then you find out that I'm still doing like design. Like it just sounded weird. And this was at a time when people weren't really doing a lot of different, the multi-passionate thing. It was pretty much like, oh no, you are what you are and you're focused in one lane. So I had this weird problem with this double career life kind of thing. And so fast forward, I did that for several years. I was also an insurance agent as well. And the design thing was always in the background. As much as I tried to get away from it, it just kept finding me. Like projects would still come, I would take them. And then towards the end, when I started realizing like I don't want to do this money thing in this capacity anymore. But I didn't ever really want to abandon the whole concept of money. I love talking about money. I love talking about like, how you can make it and all those different things. And then I realized, oh my gosh, this would be so great if I could just stay in it in the sense of talking about the psychology of it. And at that time, this is probably around 2018, 2019, and it was so hard to find anything about money mindset. I don't even think it was called that at the time. We didn't, it wasn't like Instagram the way it is now and YouTube the way it is now. I was on the internet Googling, trying to find things, and I'm like, how do I learn about this? And so I let go of all the licenses, and that was a tough decision because those licenses aren't easy to get. And it was one of those things where it was like point of no return. If you drop these licenses, we are not doing the test again. So I made peace with that. And then I just dove into this whole thing with learning about subconscious patterns and the things that we learn from our mother and our father, or, pastor, priest, teachers, people, babysitter, whoever was in your life when you were a kid, and how all of that influences our money stories. And when we have those money stories and we understand where they came from, we start to begin to understand how they are shaping our financial decisions today as an adult. And so let's bring back the design part, the creative part. I started realizing like, oh my gosh, why am I not talking to these people? These are my people. Like I love all things design and creativity. And that's also what kind of led me into realizing like, you know what, let's do a TEDx. I know I love speaking. I always wanted to do a TEDx, and I was like, let's talk about this whole idea of enough is enough of this whole starving artist mentality that that doesn't even make sense because I was I have been very successful in design. And so I wanted to dispel that, and I wanted people to realize if you have a dream to go in any type of creative business, I know you do jewelry, right? There's creativity involved. Like anything that involves creativity where you're designing, you're making, how could we impose on other people that, oh, that's nice, that's a hobby, or well, what's your backup plan, right? It's like but we never say that to somebody that says like, oh, I want to be a doctor, oh, I want to be a lawyer. You never go, oh, that's cute, but make sure you have a backup plan. What are you going to do if that doesn't work? But why is it that we say those things to people that are going into some kind of creative field? So all that being said, this is what led me into let's help the creatives. Let's stop this mess with all this negative talk about money and that these creatives can't make money. And so it's really helping two groups of people, creatives to believe in themselves and to rewire their money beliefs so that they can attract the premium clients that they want and have a thriving and wealthy life, as well as the people that are in their lives where it's like, hey, let's pay attention to the words that we're using. Let's pay attention and have an understanding and awareness of how the words that you are saying to the creative in your life can be very damaging. It could be, it can be very hurtful. It could totally change the trajectory. And what I mean by that is I had so many people after my TEDx come up to me afterwards and tell me like, oh my gosh. And these were like grown adults. Oh my gosh, Sheila, it was sad. I almost wanted to cry because they were telling me like, "Oh my gosh, Jen, I remember, that this reminded me of how like when I was a kid, I wanted to go into music, but my father didn't want me to be a musician. He said I was never gonna make it." And then another lady said, I wanted to be a dancer, and they told me that wasn't really gonna be a good job and that I had to go into a different career. It was just so heartbreaking to hear that there's parents out there that don't understand that you can thrive in the creative field, no matter what that looks like, and that we need to encourage that rather than tear it down and force people to go into a different direction that's not really in alignment with who they are and who they want to be.
And I love that you're focusing on that specific niche. Now, listening to you, you began with wanting to be a doctor. And a lot of times we don't know what we want. Looking back, did you make the right choice not being a doctor? And number two, What type of doctor were you thinking about becoming?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you know what? I do truly believe I made the right choice because I don't think about, "Oh gosh, what if I was working in the hospital?" What ended up happening, I didn't tell you this part of the story, but there was a summer, I think I was coming I can't remember which it was there was a summer where I actually did an internship. I think I did it for like 2 months. Girl, I was so bored. I was so bored. I it was like I was doing some research, and I remember sitting there thinking like, "Oh my gosh, I still got like 3 hours left," and every time I was in there, I just remember thinking like, "This is kinda boring to me." I mean, I wasn't doing any, I wasn't helping patients, I wasn't doing anything like that, but it was just being in that environment where I started to realize like, "No, I mean, this isn't for me. I'm kinda bored. I think I'm just gonna be in these hospital walls all day." Like, I just knew it wasn't for me, but, the reason why I went into it is because I absolutely love science. I do have a biology background, so I love science, and that's why I thought I wanted to go into it. And then the type of doctor, I wasn't sure. I don't think I ever got that far, but I was thinking of anesthesiology.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I just love, asking those questions in case someone tuning in is having those kind of thoughts or confusion where they don't know what could happen. Today, you help creative entrepreneurs break through the money beliefs that keep them stuck. What is the most common money story you hear from creatives?
I think the most common one is that well, first, when I take people through an exercise where we're trying to identify patterns, right? So I help people look at their money story, and we take a look at, okay, what did you learn from your mom? What did you hear her say? Did you always hear her say things like, "We can't afford that," or "You're asking for too much," or "You should just be grateful that, you have food." Like, what did you hear from your mom? And then the same thing, what did you hear from your dad? Or whoever you were growing up with, right? And you take a look at all of these things over the years, and you start from, the earliest age that you can remember, any kind of thing that was related to money, and then you do it all the way up until your current age. And then we start to look at different patterns where you're realizing like, oh my gosh, wow, when I was 9 years old, my dad yelled at me about that because I asked for something. Oh, okay, when I got to high school, this is when I needed money for my track uniform, and my mom said I couldn't do it, so I couldn't join track. Like, you start to see these different things pop up, right? Whatever the case is for every individual. And at the end of the day, the biggest thing is that people feel like they don't deserve whatever it is that they desire. And it's sad because it's almost like people already have a hard time dreaming big, and then if they are dreaming, their money story, they're not aware of it yet, but their money story, there's something in them that reminds them, or subconsciously is reminding them, "Hey, who are you to think that you can ask for that? Remember when dad yelled at you because you asked for that? How dare you ask for more?" And so we shrink and we shrink. And then anytime that we're supposed to dream big, you want to dream big and you have all these aspirations and all these things you want to do. But then there's something in you go like, oh, wait, I'm asking for too much. I should just be grateful I have a good job. Oh, wait, I should just be grateful that I'm making a good salary anymore. And then you don't go for the promotion or you don't go for the higher offer. And then what's even worse is that then if we break it down even further, women versus men, women will tend to not negotiate. We'll just settle. Where our male counterparts are willing to counteroffer, ask for more, even if they aren't qualified. They, for some reason, are more willing to ask for the higher offer, for to ask for more. Where women are told, like, well, I should just be grateful. I have a job and it's paying the bills. And then it's just all this shrinking back, but it all, no matter what that came out looking like from their stories, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that we feel that we don't deserve it.
How do you help them change that mindset?
So now when we take a look at all these different things that popped up, okay, you listed it. Now we start to write down these different beliefs. Okay, we make a list of things that we identified that we don't want to keep, we don't want to hold on to anymore. Like, okay, I can't ask for a raise, or no one's going to hire me, or I can't ask for X amount for this type of work, whatever those things are. So we list it. And then I encourage people to, okay, in the next to that list, in the next column, write an instance or a new belief, or not a new belief, write an instance that has happened that proves that that's not true. So, for example, let's say one of the things that somebody wrote was, nobody's going to hire me if I ask for $20,000 for XYZ project. And then the next column would say, oh, wait, this job came through from a referral, and I actually got paid, $15,000 on a 3-month retainer. Whatever it is, like, right? So what ends up happening is you start to sit down, and it's like, how we forget so easily. Like, it's so easy for us to remember the negative stuff, but we forget all the positives. We forget all the good things that we've done. And so this exercise walks you through reminding yourself in a conscious way, like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I did get all that money. Somebody did hire me. Somebody was willing to pay that. And so we go through the list and we keep finding things that disprove that. Or, when somebody could even say, like, well, I'm not good enough because I didn't get this, position or whatever. And then the other thing could be the opposite, could be like, wait a minute. No, I remember when there was there were 3 different companies offering me different positions, and there were people that really wanted me at their company. And so we just have to remind ourselves that, all these things that we're saying is total BS, first off. And then finally, the third column, if you're visualizing this piece of paper with all these things, the third column would be like, write a new belief. So it would be as simple as, I always command the rates that I deserve and get them. It could be it could be that simple, and then you just work your way through all of it. So that's just a start, right? It's just identifying these things, these crazy things that we're saying, reminding ourselves that, wait a minute, there have been instances where this is not true of what I'm thinking, because this happened, and it I need to stop thinking that. And then embracing the new belief that we're writing to remind us that, okay, no, this is true. Because we always have a choice at the end of the day. We always have a choice. What do you want to believe? We are who we believe to be. So if you want to keep thinking no one's going to hire you, you want to keep thinking no projects are going to come, you want to keep thinking that only the younger people are getting the gigs and all this stuff, then have at it. You have a choice if you want to follow that. But you also have the choice to choose differently. Everybody does every single day. You have the ability and the choice in make a decision. Do you want to believe the old stuff, or do you want to embrace the new stuff? And, and then we can even go into neuroscience, because the more that you hang on to the new beliefs, you start rewiring your brain. You start activating, the reticular activating system, where it's a network of neurons. And so your brain starts to look out for all these opportunities of that thing that you're asking for, that thing that you desire, because you're focusing on that. Versus if you keep thinking you're not going to get hired, you keep thinking nobody's going to pay you because you think you're asking for too much. Guess what's going to happen? That's exactly what's going to happen. So it's that simple, it's simple, but not always easy to do. But that's basically it. We have to embrace this as a daily practice, that, every day is a choice, every day is a decision of what we want to believe.
Tell us about your book, who it's for, and how they'll feel after they finish reading it.
Oh, thank you. Yes, The Creative Code, A Creative Professional's Way to Happiness, Wealth, and Joy. That is the book she's talking about. And that book is written for the creative, whether that is a photographer, whether you're a writer. It could be anybody that exercises their creativity in any kind of way. And that book, I wanted it to not be so focused on financial principles. I actually wrote in the back, I'm like, this is not, if you're expecting a book about budgeting and investing and all those basic things we hear about, emergency fund, not that those aren't important. I'm like, this is not the book. So I wanted to focus more on practical things around the money mindset. And it was just really walking people through all these different things that we can do, very practical, simple things like decluttering your environment to clear space in your mind and, just the physical space of allowing that creative flow to come to you. Even just the stuff about vibrational frequencies and kind of similar to like if you keep thinking of this thing, you're going to attract that, right? So, if you're into manifesting, it's also in there as well. But I even talk about fear. A lot of creatives are afraid to, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know how I'm going to make money in this. And this is really encouraging somebody to just tap into that talent. You were born with it. If you truly believe that this is a God-given gift and this is something you feel so aligned with, like who are you to suppress it? Who are you to suppress your gift that God has given you to share with the world? It's your job to exercise that. It's your job to let that out so people can experience that. Because if you truly believe that that has been given to God or spirit, source, universe, whatever your word is, you doing that thing is allowing God, universe, spirit, source to express through you. So when you don't do it, you are blocking the blessing of other people experiencing what you can offer to the world. So it's really fighting through that fear, and that's with this one chapter. Because I would ask people like, "What was your favorite chapter?" And it was the one about fear, of course, because we all experience fear. And so I just wanted to encourage people like, hey, you know what? We're all scared, but do it anyway. And the other chapter that's also sticking out in my mind is about just believing that you could make money in this and just little practical things that you can do on a daily basis. Because sometimes people will ask, well, like, well, I don't want, I want to do better, but what do I do? That's what this book will also tell you what to do. You don't have to do every single thing in there, but if you can start to identify which of the things just try it. Try this one, try this one from chapter 4, try this one from chapter 7. It'll just kind of give you an idea of how you can formulate your own daily ritual to just get your, Monday morning going and then your Tuesday morning going and maybe you do it at night. There's no set way or time that you have to do it. But the thing that I have found is that when I talk to people, a lot of people don't have some kind of consistency of what they're doing. And so they wake up, they're just like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. For me, for example, like is dialed in. Like I know when I wake up, there is a thing that I am doing, like they're non-negotiables. I always have to pray. I always have to journal. I always have to visualize. And those things have been so critical in what I do that it's just like second nature, kind of like brushing your teeth, like almost to the point where like, oh gosh, I didn't do this yet. I have to do this. But they're all good. They're all good for, what we're trying to achieve and helps us to get into that pattern of, again, reinstilling these beliefs, really embracing them, because sometimes we're like, well, how? Well, how? That's what the book will tell you how.
And how will we feel? Empowered, confused, or ready to go become an artist? Because
Right.
I know how you
might,
make me feel.
yeah, you might feel overwhelmed. You might feel like, oh my gosh, that was a lot. And it can be, but that's why, I tell people like, don't feel like you have to do every single thing. There's the pick and choose. But I think at the end of the day, you're gonna feel, oh, I can do this. Oh, this feels great. So empowered. I know that that was the word you use. I think it's also like hopeful. You're just like, okay, finally, something that's gonna give me some concrete things to do. Somebody reading this is probably in a space where they're feeling like, I've tried different things. I feel like I'm lost. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I had a prospect one time was saying like she was a photographer and she's like, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. And I think sometimes we just lose hope. I think sometimes we lose that excitement for the thing that used to bring us joy. And I think the book will also re-inspire you to lean into like, wait a minute, wait a minute. I need to look at this differently. Instead of just abandoning all my dreams and thinking like I'm just going to throw in the towel and just stop doing this because I think it's not working, try this. Try this. It might give you, it'll just give you some ideas of how you can approach things differently. And then, especially with money, I think this is the part that's exciting for me because it's exciting to show people like, "Hey, try this. Try looking at this differently when it comes to money." Now you're equipped where you understand what to say, what not to say, how to think of it, how to treat it, and start to pay attention to how it's showing up differently in your life. And I think that part is you know, I think for me, when I talk about this stuff, I think about the reader that's, potentially like going to go through this and read it. I think about like, this is fun. And I think when it's fun, we do it, right? Because when it's not fun, we don't want to do it. It's just like boring or it's like, dragging feet. I think when I look at the book, it's fun. It just gives us hope that, okay, I can look at this differently and try something different. And I think we need to stop making things feel so heavy. If you can inject fun back into your life and look at things like a game. I think that's the other thing I'll say too. A game meaning like, what if it's possible that this could happen? Well, what if this did work? What if this really happens and I actually get to take that trip? What if I really land that project and I get the $50,000 contract? Now it becomes a game. And the other thing I will say that I think I stressed this in the book, be detached to the outcomes. That was a really huge thing that I had to learn, and I think it's been one of the most powerful things that I do today, where I don't get attached to the outcome. So if it doesn't happen, I'm like, "All right, it wasn't meant to be. It's gonna be." And when I'm waiting for the answer or I'm waiting to see what's gonna happen, I'll say this or something better. So that when it doesn't happen, or if it doesn't happen, I know something better is coming. The thing that was meant for me is gonna happen later. I don't control it. God, universe, spirit, source controls it. So if I also look at it when it's a no, it means like it was a block so that I can accept something else. So it's like a game to me. And so it just makes life lighter. It makes life fun. And I don't take it so seriously and make it so heavy because then it's just like then it just sucks. You don't want to go through it like that.
So, where can anyone listening to you today find your book or find you online?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I live there. So Jen Fontanilla, you can find me there on LinkedIn. And then I'm also on Instagram, and my handle there is it's Jen Fontanilla.
And before we wrap today's conversation up, we've covered so much. Thank you for sharing so many wonderful insights with us. What would be that one key takeaway that you want us to keep?
Experiment. Look at things as an experiment. I think we get so afraid to try things. And I remember I'm a recovering perfectionist, so I can speak on this. You're trying to get and I think I got that from my dad because he's a retired engineer and everything had to be perfect. And this is why he moves so slow. God bless him. I love him, but my goodness, it's like move faster, just deploy. Like now my brain is like, and you do coding, so it's like, you know what? Create, deploy. And I don't even care if it's not right. I just look at it like, oh, I will know if it's not working after I deploy, right? And I think if again, one of my values is fun and adventure, if you couldn't already tell. So I make everything a game and I look at it as an experiment and I look at things as feedback. So, okay, so that person, and you're going to hear some crap. People are going to be mean. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. People are going to not like your stuff. You're going to get a stupid review. You're going to hear some negative comment on one of your posts, whatever the case may be. Let it go. Everything's an experiment. If you just if you just shift the perspective, you're just like, oh, well, thank you for that feedback. I mean, you don't have to respond, but look at it like, oh, thank you for that feedback. I'm glad to know that you thought it sucked. Let me see if there's any validity in what you said, or maybe I need to take a look at something and maybe I need to adjust the offer. Maybe I need to take a look at how I worded this. But don't take it personally. Those people don't even know you most of the time. So, and if they do, get a new friend. But just like, don't get caught up in this BS that people are saying that everything is an experiment. And you will not know what works unless you just throw it out there. And who cares if only 3 people liked your post? Who cares if only 2 people went to your webinar? Show up because you're showing up for those 2 people, because everybody starts somewhere. Everybody starts somewhere, and then it grows and it grows, but you can't grow it if you're not consistent, and if you're not consistent, then how are you gonna get the results you want? So, while you're growing this, because I know some of you out there listening are probably like, "Well, I don't have that many followers, and I'm just starting out, or I don't know what I'm offering." Totally fine. Everybody started there, okay? But this is what I'm gonna tell you. Look at everything as an experiment. It will free you. It will be so much more freeing if you don't get hung up on the outcomes, hung up on the analytics, and just keep telling yourself, oh, this is feedback. Great. This is feedback. This is telling me exactly what I need to adjust. Oh, this is working. Great. I'll do more of that. Oh, that kind of sucked. That didn't work. I won't do that again. And it's all good. This is how you build the mental toughness. This is how you get better. And then you're going to look up one day and go, gosh, man, I remember how it was in the beginning. I totally sucked back then. And look at me now. I mean, you got to make it light. You got to make it fun and keep it like you're experimenting.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Jen.
Thank you so much. I had a blast.
Thank you for tuning in today. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you have a story of your own that you'd like to share, or have ever thought about becoming a published author, visit 5milestones.com to be a guest on the show. One conversation is all it takes to become a published author. You have a story that matters. It's time to tell it.